folks, welcome you all to yet another podcast of mine. I am coming at you on a Wednesday this week, people. There has been so much going on, I didn't want to leave it till Friday. And I've got a couple of cheeky days off tomorrow and Friday, so I thought I'd have a little midweek vlog. You might still get a podcast, I should say. You might still get a podcast on Friday as well. You might get two this week, people, because God only knows what might happen tomorrow and Friday during the day. So we'll wait and see, Flagging's up to you all. I'm having a little cheeky midweek beer because I am not on a school night because I've got a couple of days off, as I say. And we've got, oh my God, it's kicked off this week, people. It has kicked off. Microsoft have gone done it. Along with all of the bloody mayhem that has been. So we're going to talk about Microsoft's big purchase of the Bethesda studio. We're going to be talking about the mayhem that was pre-ordering consoles. I know I talked about the PS5 on my last podcast, but I'll combine them into one big fat juicy ridiculous the redonkulous that was pre-ordering consoles this time around. And I don't remember any of that mayhem last time. But anyway, we shall get into all of that as well. But we shall kick in with the massive topic that we all want to get our teeth stuck into, people, which is Microsoft buying Bethesda and the parent studio ZeniMax. I mean, what? I'm going to have a sip of this for a cracking any more, people. I am. Flags up to you all. So, yes, as I say, Microsoft have purchased Bethesda and the parent company ZeniMax, which means they own everything that's to do with any game that's coming out of Bethesda. Now, let's just run through, shall we? I can't think of a game studio purchase as big as that ever, in my personal opinion. I know there's been, I suppose Activision combining with Blizzard was fairly big, and Square and Enix combining to become Square Enix way back in the day was big. But I can't think of anybody buying up a studio that gave them that immediate impact of the amount of developers, the amount of game titles that this one has. I mean, let's just run through them, right? And this isn't going to be all of them. You can see the pictures behind me sort of rattling through some of them. I mean, okay, so they've $7.5 billion this purchase was. So Microsoft, I mean, they are throwing their hat in. They're basically saying we're here to stay, and we're going nowhere, and we're going to compete mightily heavily with anybody that hits in our direction, including PlayStation. So if anyone was in any doubt that Microsoft were not committed to the gaming industry, this tells you that they are, because they would not be. I know Microsoft are rich, but you don't throw 7.5 million. That's more than I'm pretty sure that's more than Disney paid for Star Wars. I think they paid 4 point blah billion, didn't they? So it's a ridiculous amount of money, people. It's just insanity, right? And let's just rattle through what they've paid for. Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Starfield, which is the new big new space thing that's coming our way. We assume it's a space thing with anything like that, which is going to be 10 times bigger than either Fallout or Skyrim. So we're all hoping that's going to be absolutely. I mean, we're thinking Skyrim in space, hopefully, aren't we? Really? So Elder Scrolls in space, that'll be fine. Wolfenstein, The Evil Within, Prey, Doom, and then there's Quake thrown in there, which hasn't. I don't think Quake's had anything done with it for a while. But anyway, you get the idea, people. I mean, the Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Starfield alone are ridiculous. The Evil Within, I loved the first one. I still haven't managed to get into the second one. I've got it on 2 platforms now, and I still haven't managed to. It just felt completely different. But a terrific title nonetheless. Wolfenstein's mega popular. I love those games. Prey, and then you've got the exclusives. I mean, here's the weird part, right? You've got 2 PS5 exclusives coming from Bethesda, one of which is Deathloop, timed exclusives, I might say. One of which is Deathloop, and one of which is Ghostwire Tokyo. And that, to me, I'm pretty sure Ghostwire Tokyo is directed and run by the same guy that did Evil Within. Oh, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. So, and he was involved with the Resi 4, was it? I think, something like that. So, and Phil Spencer has already said that they are going to stand by that commitment of making those PlayStation 5. I said PlayStation 4 before. PlayStation 5 exclusive for the timed period that had been agreed. So, they're not going to go back on that. But nonetheless, those titles will end up on Xbox as well. And who knows, the follow-ups to them might only be on Xbox. Now, there's this massive debate going on at the moment as to whether or not these games are going to be exclusive to the Microsoft, well, to Microsoft basically, because they are now a Microsoft studio. They're a game studio like all the others that they've purchased. And, I mean, for me, I don't even know why it's a conversation, because everyone's going, oh, well, they could just release all of their titles on the PlayStation 5 as well and get $70 a pop for the game. And I'm like, well, yeah, but you don't... whenever has that happened, right? Don't throw Minecraft at me. Minecraft's a completely different animal, because Minecraft was already on the PlayStation, and Minecraft is a living entity. Like, it's a, you know, imagine a sort of, I don't know, well, it's an MMO, but imagine it as an MMO, so it's forever just getting updated software-wise with new stuff and blah, blah, blah. So it was already there. I feel like if they'd bought Mojang before it had hit console, I don't think Minecraft would be on PlayStation 4 at all. And I think that's just reasonable to understand. The biggest argument there's been against Microsoft and Xbox, and has been fueled again when Halo got delayed, is because there's no exclusives that people are ubered up about at the launch of this Xbox Series X and Series S. And there's not enough exclusives anyway. I mean, they've been filling them in, because they've been buying up studios, you know, fairly for fun, but they've been studios that do a couple of franchises or a franchise. They weren't massive like Bethesda, like this one. So this immediately puts them in the ring with PlayStation on some sort of level playing field almost instantly, because they've got titles there that they can say, you're only going to be able to play these on an Xbox, and you're going to get them for nothing on Xbox Games Pass on day one when they launch, including all of the backward the backward catalogue of all of the games. Everything that's ever been Bethesda is going to be on the Games Pass really soon. For anyone that's paying their $7.99 or their $10.99 in this country, £7.99 pounds, £10.99. That's the standard and ultimate edition of the Games Pass. I think the only difference between the standard and the ultimate is the cloud gaming. So if you're not going to do the cloud gaming, the $7.99 is like nothing. And then you're going to be getting, you know, let's say, for example, you're going to get Elder Scrolls 6 on it day one. You don't have to pay $70 for it, or 60 quid, or whatever it will be here. You're going to get it on Games Pass for $7.99 a month with all the other 200 games that are on it. And remember, EA Access, or whatever it's called, I think it's EA Access, is now on there as well. So you've got all of their games. I mean, it's just, they are turning Games Pass into, you absolutely have to have an Xbox and Games Pass, and you don't have to worry about spending $70 a game or 60 quid a game anymore, because just wait long enough and it will hit Games Pass. So I think to have an argument that says that they're going to stick it on the PlayStation, I can't see that happening in any form, because why would anyone who's got a PlayStation... I mean, I understand it. I understand the money they would make from it. Of course I do. I get it. I understand it. But I don't see a world where Microsoft spends $7.5 billion and then put the games on PlayStation 5. I don't understand what that says to everybody. Like, what does that... I mean, that almost says, like, well, it doesn't matter if you buy an Xbox or not. We're still going to make money because it's on PS5. It's kind of giving up your own brand a little bit. It's like, why would you do that? Don't give up your own brand. Like, you've got to compete with them. Not just put all your games on there. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't think, and from everything I'm hearing, if you go and look at the Phil Spencer interviews he's been doing, they're quite clear he's not committing at all to anything other than, yes, we're gonna stand by Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo being timed exclusives, and then they'll come to Xbox later. And then after that, he says, we'll make a decision on a games by games basis. And that to me says, that he wants to have read all the legal stuff before he makes answers to stuff. I think it also means it depends how far down the road a development of a game is and how many promises have been made to PlayStation before he'll say, well, that game's not going to be on PlayStation. Absolutely not. So I think he needs to be reading the fine print of whatever Bethesda had agreed with people before, because there's a big rumor that Starfield might have been a timed exclusive for PlayStation 5 before they went and bought it. So he has to work out the legalities of all of that. Because there's no way he's going to want their biggest hitting title since, the last Skyrim to come out on a PS5, in my opinion. So I think it's just a case of Phil having have a really good look at what the legalities are of saying, nah, it's only going to be on Xbox. But I tell you, going forward, from everything that's not in really far on in development, if you like, I absolutely is going to be exclusive for me. There is no way that Phil just spent $7.5 billion and he's going to shove their games on PlayStation. I mean, it makes no sense. As a brand, it makes a joke of your brand. Because it's like people going, well, there's no point in having a second console because they'll just start shipping all the games over to PlayStation anyway. It makes no sense to me. Other than them just wanting the cash. And I don't think it's about the cash. It's about the brand and it's about Xbox Games Pass. And if you're going to shove the games on a PlayStation, then you're not pulling people into that brand that you're trying to build with the Xbox Game Pass. And Xbox Games Pass is like on this stupid amount of millions now, 15 million people or something on it, and it's making it's starting to really take off, like the gaming version of Netflix. And then you put cloud gaming behind that. What's to say that they don't come out with a Game Pass dongle that you plug into your TV that works with an Xbox controller, and you don't even have to buy an Xbox anymore if you don't want to. You can just play the games straight through the dongle and stream them just like Google are doing with their gaming stuff. So, you can see where they're going with it, but I do not see them in any way whatsoever or shape or form, unless they are legally binded to or legally bound to putting them on a PlayStation 5. I don't see what benefit that gives their brand. And what if you're going to put them on PlayStation 5, why did you buy it? Because they would have gone on there anyway. I mean, I know you'll make money out of it, but you're going to take you a long time to make 7.5 billion back. So for me, I mean, obviously all these games will end up on PC. That's a given. So if you're on Xbox Games Pass or not, you'll get it. If you're on Xbox Games Pass there's hang on a minute, that might be the other difference between Ultimate. I think Ultimate also includes your pass includes using them on PC as well, and obviously the cloud stuff. And then the standard edition is just for the Xbox and not the cloud stuff. I think that's how it works. But yeah, I mean, I don't see it. Like, I don't understand why there's a conversation at all about why these games would be on PlayStation 5 or PlayStation or even Switch. I mean, I threw a few things were thrown at me to do with Switch, like, Ori ended up on the Switch along with a few others. Yes, but if you actually look into that, those studios are not first-party studios. They're studios that made those games for Microsoft as a second-party studio. And then they're later down the line of the life cycle of the game, they've been allowed to then put them on Switch because whatever timed exclusivity was on them is now evaporated. And Ori is now on the Switch. So you can't take that as an example either. So you really are just looking at the one example that I know of, which is Minecraft, and you can't throw that at me either because it was already on a PlayStation 5. So my personal opinion, if there's nothing legally binding that says that Phil has to stick it on a PlayStation 5, I think the only two games you're ever going to see on a PlayStation 5 from Bethesda is going to be Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, because it was already set in stone. And, I'm pretty sure there was pen to paper stuff done there, so you can't really wriggle out of it without sort of forking out a gazillion pounds to get out of it. And it's only a timed exclusivity thing. It wasn't like we've made these games only for PlayStation forever. So they'll come to the Xbox anyway, a year down the line or whatever it will be. So my personal feeling on it is, after those two games, unless there's something legally binding, they are not going on PlayStation 5, and they will be Xbox exclusives, people, because that's the only reason to be spending $7.5 billion on a studio, is to compete with your competitor. Why would you then put them on their machine? It makes no sense to me. And I really, I mean, I know a lot of people are going to probably be pissed off at me for saying this, but I really hope they don't put them on PlayStation 5. I want Microsoft to compete with PlayStation, because if they don't compete heavily on the first party titles, then, you know, companies become lax and they don't keep pushing themselves forward to give you something better, to give you more variety, to also do similar things. There has to be a competitive nature in the market, otherwise it doesn't grow the way we want it to grow and give us the variety we want. So I'm super stoked for it. I think it's a fantastic buy for them. We all know that Bethesda games, Fallout and... why am I forgetting it? Skyrim. Thank you. It came up on the screen. Elder Scrolls, Skyrim. These have always worked predominantly better on an Xbox than they have on a PlayStation. For some reason, Bethesda have always been more comfortable in that space, probably because Microsoft have always been more like a PC. Probably there was a little bit of a difference to that when PlayStation 4 came along, but there was always there was this hoo-ha, even when, like, Fallout 4, I don't remember any big deals with Fallout 4 being a problem on PlayStation 4. I think PlayStation 4 was very much like a PC as well. I'll give it that. But when it came to the mods, like, there was this huge hoo-ha because Microsoft on the Xbox, they opened up all the different mods that you could get, and on PlayStation they kept making it really sodding difficult to get any mods at all. Then when they did let them in, it was only a certain amount of them. I mean, it was so restricting that the mods weren't really worth doing on the PlayStation. The good ones weren't there, as far as I understand it. I don't mess around with mods anyway, but Bethesda have always been very comfortable in that Microsoft space. They were, of course, Morrowind was one of the reasons that the original Xbox was the big success that it was, along with the original Halo. Morrowind was where that all took off. So I think it's the perfect partnership. I think it's a fantastic set of games they've got. I think it's a fantastic there's a lot of fantastic studios they've got, and a great brand. Okay, you can argue that since Fallout 4, things have been a little bit shaky. Fallout 76 didn't do overly well. Had a real struggle of a start. Don't know what the sales figures are on that now. People are still playing it. It's gotten better. But, you know, you can see they're driving forward now. That's a live animal. It'll probably keep going. But they're driving forward now with Starfield's meant to come first, I think. And then the next next Elder Scrolls, which is Elder Scrolls 6, is going to be much further down the line. I think we'll see Elder Scrolls 6... maybe 3 years from now. I think Starfield might be a lot closer than we think it is, maybe. I can't imagine that Starfield and Elder Scrolls are very close together in development timescale, and I think Starfield was definitely started first because Todd Howard, who's the sort of main man at Bethesda, he had talked on stage about Starfield being their new generation big hitting title that could not possibly be brought to the current consoles and stuff. So for me, that feels like we might get Starfield maybe in the second year of these consoles, and I think we might get Elder Scrolls a couple of years after that. That's my personal vibe on it from what we've seen so far, which is nothing. We've seen it announced at an E3, didn't we, or something like that, a year ago, maybe, something like that. So, but I think that's probably a fair guesstimate. But yeah, anyway, I genuinely believe that everything they can make exclusive will be exclusive, and only things that are going to be legally binding that they'll still push onto a PlayStation because they have to, without buying the way out of it for silly money, which they don't want to have to do. Fantastic. I mean, I think this has really opened up the competition between the two consoles, because the only thing remaining between the two things really was there was an awful lot of exclusives on the PlayStation and not so much of the big hitting exclusives on the Xbox. And I think this is gonna wrap that right up to become a far more even battle, and take away the game titles themselves and let the companies do other new stuff. You're going to be looking from that set of developers you've just bought. You're going to be looking at massive hitters on a regular basis, of all different varieties as well. You know, maybe they don't want to do another Wolfenstein. Maybe they don't want to do another. Well, Dishonored team have been doing. You know, they've moved on to Prey, moved on to Deathloop, so they are doing other stuff. Maybe they don't want to do another Fallout, and they'll do something else after Sky. You know, after Elder Scrolls 6. And maybe the Doom team want to do something new that's not a first-person shooter, but they're all very experienced studios with lots and lots. I think they said it was something like 2,300 staff that they'd taken over. It's a lot of people in a lot of little developers, a lot of big developers. Sorry. So yeah, absolutely fantastic in my opinion. I think that's a terrific move by Microsoft. I really, really do. Does it suck a bit for people that are only going to have a PlayStation? Well, of course it does, you know what I mean? But that's how it works on the other side of it as well. That's how it feels for the people that are wanting to play Spider-Man or wanting a second Sunset Overdrive. It's not going to happen because Sony bought the studio. So you just got to live with it, I'm afraid. That's how it works. So I can understand why Microsoft have done it this way. They had a great partner there they've always got on with. And there's to actually make and build those studios from scratch would have taken a decade at least. So, you know, the only way to get around that issue quickly is to buy up a massive publisher and developer like Bethesda, and that's exactly what they've done. So I think that's fantastic. And here's the other thing. Apparently, that's not the end of it. There's all sorts of rumours saying there's more to come from Microsoft on the announcement front. And there was rumours today about Sega being a target, which is an interesting one because if that was true and they did want to buy Sega, which I don't think they are, I think my son Aaron was saying he thinks the Tokyo Game Show is shortly. Is it tomorrow or this week? Anyway, it's soon. I think it's tomorrow. Anyway, he was saying that he thinks it's probably going to be some sort of, you know, all of our games are going to be on Game Pass day one or some sort of massive Game Pass exclusivity where, you know, you've still got to buy the game if you're on a PlayStation, but if you're on the Xbox ecosystem and you've got the Games Pass, that you will get all the Sega games. That's things like Yakuza and Persona. I mean, there's some big hitters in there. Obviously, you've got Sonic and stuff. I don't know what they've been doing with Sonic recently. I've not touched a Sonic game in years. Sonic, for me, if they were to buy if they were to buy Sega as an actual thing, though, and bring it into the Xbox community, which I don't think it would feel really odd to me that a studio from that part of the world would become an Xbox studio. But you never know. You never know. If they throw another 7.5 billion at it. Apologies for the lighting again, people. It's always when a big white picture comes up, and I try and avoid them, and the only one that I've got is the Bloody Evil Within one. I couldn't find a dark one. So I need to get a proper daylight light. I keep saying this. I've got a lamp right in front of me here, which is why it's so bright here, but the TV just immediately takes over the lighting. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, Sega would be a really interesting one. We'll find out in the next few days, I think, as to what is going on there, perhaps. Microsoft are really going for it. I mean, they are really, 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 really stamping the foot down and saying, we are going nowhere. We are here for the big fight, and we want everybody to play on our platform. And if they don't want to come and play on a physical Xbox, we're putting it all on PC, and you can do it all through Game, and you can do either of those platforms through Game Pass without buying a game at all, just $7.99 or $10.99 a month. And then at some point, I think we're going to get some sort of dongle thing where you're just going to have an app on either on the dongle, or you have an app on your TV, or, you know, there'll be some way. I mean, TVs have got Bluetooth, haven't they? I suppose. So there could be some way of linking the controller up with that, but I suspect there'll be some sort of dongle for it. But I think they're doing everything right, Microsoft. Phil Spencer's done an amazing job there. He's taken something that fell flat on its arse when the Xbox One launched because they did everything wrong. And he's taken it over and he's grabbed it by the balls and he's turned it into something people want again. And he started with the sorting the hardware out, getting the more refined version of the Xbox One. It was the Xbox One S. And then pushing out the Xbox One X, which was just the most powerful console in the world, still is at the minute. And has made it his and his absolute purpose to make sure that the Xbox ecosystem had the strongest box to play your games on, and he's managed that with the Xbox Series X. But he's also brought in this $300 Xbox Series S, $299 or £250 or whatever it is. You can even go on a $25 a month or $35 a month pay scheme, and you can have that and for 2 years and all of Games Pass as well. I mean, it's just what they've done is incredible. And then they've been buying up once they got the hardware sorted out and Game Pass started building, they then started buying up these studios. Obsidian. I mean, here's one, is because now they've got Obsidian and Bethesda. Does that mean that we're going to get Fallout Vegas 2 finally? I mean, that could happen. Somebody tweeted that up, and Obsidian actually replied with shrugged shoulders emoji sort of thing. So, anything's possible now that they've got those two together. Avowed, I'm really excited from Obsidian. I mean, I think that they're doing an amazing job at Microsoft. Phil Spencer's, I love that guy. He's amazing. He's really, really cool. So, I feel like the one thing that, I suppose, Sony, since the launch of the PS4, seems to have just gone through each person that was next in line to take over. And the guy who's doing it now, who's in charge, I'm forgetting his name, I apologise. But, he's been there a long time and he's doing fine. But, to some degree, I think Sony are just in a position where they can take over and Mark Cerny makes sure the hardware side's sorted, keeps visiting the devs, so they're kind of on a path that's kind of smooth. I suppose in Phil's cycle, he's had to really pull it back from the brink, but he's done a terrific job. But I just feel like Phil's a gamer, which he is, and he genuinely wants to give us something that we all love, including him. It doesn't feel like some businessman just pushing stuff your way. So yeah, I think he's great. He's fantastic. I hope he stays in that job till he retires, because he's fantastic. So there you are. So yeah, I'm uber stoked for it. I can't wait to see what comes out the arse of that, people. The other end of that, I should say. So how was my experience, moving swiftly on, how was my experience trying to get hold of my PlayStation 5 and my Xbox Series X? So I was clever to the mayhem of the PS5, as I said in my last podcast last week. And when they had the big reveal, and then they didn't tell everybody what the pre-order dates were, I kept my eye on Twitter. I was still talking Tower and Brew, and then Jeff Keighley started piping up, and I thought, I'm going to hang around, I'm going to wait. Sure enough, I hung around till about 1:45 in the morning. Game had started putting them on in this country, available on the site. I kept trying to buy it. Eventually, the site let me buy it as a guest. It wouldn't let me log in, but I got it as a guest. So I pre-ordered it there. I still wasn't 100% comfortable that I'd managed to get it, and I wasn't going to get an email saying that you couldn't get it at launch, blah, blah, blah. So the next morning, I knew that Amazon were doing it at 8 a.m. So I ordered one on Amazon. I was lucky enough to get one on Amazon. So before people start having a go at me for having two PS5 in the market, I will be throwing one back in the water. So it will go to someone else. I am never going to buy a system and then punt it on eBay for a gazillion pounds. I hate people that do that, and I wouldn't do that. Even if I didn't throw it back in the water, I would sell it to someone at the price that I got it for. Either be someone at work or someone else that really wants one that couldn't get one. I would sell it to them for the cost that I got it for, because I've always hated people that do that buy stuff simply to try and make a massive profit for themselves, and simply because they either ran a bot system or they were just lucky enough to get it before somebody else. I think it ruins the wonderful place that is gaming when stuff like that happens. But let's remember that on the actual launch day, there's going to be a gazillion more systems available to purchase, and on the actual day that they go live for the market. So there'll be more systems allocated to companies, both online and in shops. My God, that went dark, didn't it? Maybe I should sit closer to the lamp. Is that what it is? If I sit forward like this, I might not go dark, people. Let's try it. Shall we try it? I'll come forward a bit. Yeah. So If this works, by the way, I might just do that next time. And literally the lamp's here now. So yeah, so although I have 2 pre-orders, so I have one on Amazon and I've got one on Game, I will throw one of them back. I'd prefer to just keep the Amazon one, but because I bought the one on Game as a guest, I'm not overly sure what the procedure is for cancelling the pre-order. If it had been on my account, it would have been dead simple, but I couldn't log in and do it that way at the time. I only had the option of doing it as a guest. The extra controller and the headphones are also on my Amazon pre-order, and the one thing I could not get on Amazon, it was just everybody was buying up the dual chargers, so I managed to get that on shop too. So that's pre-ordered there. So anyway, so I will be either cancelling one of those orders or just selling it at the same cost to somebody who might want it that I know or whatever. But to be honest, the easiest thing for me is just to throw it back in the water, throw the fish back, people, let somebody else have it. That's probably the fair thing to do. So when it came to the Microsoft pre-orders, well, Microsoft had a dig at Sony going, well, we're not going to do that to our fans. And, this is the day that this is in the UK. This is the day. These are the shops. This is the day. This is the time. So it was 8 a.m. It was Tuesday. No, wait. 22nd. Yeah, yesterday. And there was a massive hoo-ha all around the world. Like, I don't know that it was as bad in the UK that it was in the United States, but I was hearing all sorts of horror stories in the United States. And people queuing up at shops to try and get them in the shops, and then finding out that the shops had only been allocated 4 Xbox Series X's, or I think the most that any shop had of Xbox Series X's was 13, and that was a really big store. And most places were between 4, I think 4 and 7 or something like that. So, it was nothing for what people were needing. And then all of the sites were going down or they weren't working properly. In the UK, my experience was that I had Amazon open, I had Game open, and I had Simply Games open that were all meant to go live at the same time. I knew I was always going to try Amazon first because their website, it never fails. Even when it gets absolutely hammered with people, it still just works, certainly in this country. So the minute 8 o'clock came, I was just refreshing the search for Xbox Series X. Suddenly popped up, but when I clicked on it, it said, "I'm sorry, there's a problem with this page." So then I was refreshing, click, until it stopped saying there was a problem with this page, which was about 5 minutes later. And then add to basket, bang, 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 job done. I mean, it was so quick with it. I didn't hang about. I saw Xbox Series X, controller, bang, 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 bang. So I've managed to get my Xbox Series X. Didn't need to worry about the other sites. So don't worry, I've not gone getting 2 of those as well. And yeah, I'm really, really, really chuffed that I managed to get both. I know a lot of people didn't, so I really feel for you if you didn't manage to get them. But as I say, there will be more stock available when the actual launch day comes. And there has been stock reappearing on some of these sites. So keep checking them, keep refreshing them, keep trying them. And you may just luck out and get, because there will be people that maybe ended up with 2 like I have, and they'll throw one back in the water. There'll be loads of folk like that. So, I mean, it was just chaos though. I mean, even with Microsoft giving us the time in the day, even then it was still like everybody just hitting something at the same time. Like in this country, there was 2 websites that I think it was Smiths and Game. Both websites just they just fell on their arse. They couldn't cope with it. And apparently somebody said there was a queue of 50,000 people trying to get in at one point. It was like, I mean, God's sake, they're just not built for that kind of traffic, these sites. So this is why I always do Amazon first, because Amazon are so bloody massive that they've got all the power in the universe for their servers, people. So, and their website gets hammered all the time. So they've built a website that can cope with that kind of hit ratio. Anyway, I'm uber excited for next gen now that I know that they are on the way. I'm really excited about doing some videos for you guys when I get them. I think with the Xbox Series X, I'm probably going to get some form of exclusive on day one. Like I was thinking of something the other day, actually. It wasn't a first party game. It was, well, I know this isn't anything the channel's going to be interested in, but I'm really interested in COD for one of them. This first Call of Duty I've been interested in for the campaign in about a decade. Then there was also, the one game that I really want to try out is the Immortals Phoenix Rising. That's not out till December. I'm trying to remember what the game was now. There's a couple of games that I thought I wouldn't mind them on the X, actually, to try out. I know Assassin's Creed Valhalla's coming, but I've not been into the Assassin's Creed since they started changing the format this way, but maybe I'll change my mind. Anyway, outside of that, my biggest thing to try and do for you guys is to bring some of the some of the Xbox One titles and give you some Let's Play of things like Fallout 4, Skyrim, some of the Bethesda stuff we've just been talking about, obviously. And I already said that I wanted to do some Kingdoms of Amalur re-reckoning on that to see just how much of this extra power these games do by themselves without asking for updates of any kind of description. So I really want to try and push some of that content up from the Xbox Series X when I get it, just to see, so people can see my opinions and reactions to how they are playing, along with, you know, making your own opinion on it as well. I mean, it's all sorts in it, like the frame rates and the graphical fidelity, if it does go up. I mean, it'd be interesting to see if the frame rates actually go up in some, because some of them have dynamic range, so they may well just push up in frame rates if they get higher than 30, but you never know. We'll find out. It may be that I do some of this stuff and then they make patches for them and have to do a few more to see how they compare. But anyway, it's exciting. And then on the PlayStation 5, I will definitely be getting Demon's Souls on day one. Outside of that, I'm still humming and hawing as to whether or not I'm going to get anything else for it on day one. Because Demon's Souls in itself, I think, is something I'm definitely going to want to do some Let's Plays for you. But that comes a week later, and I've taken 2 weeks off. I've got 2 weeks leave to cover both consoles. So I'll be taking, the week of the 10th and the week of the 22nd I've got off. 19th I've got off. So that's going to cover me right the way through both launches and be able to do loads of recording for you guys. So I'm really, really, really excited, people. I'm actually really happy and excited for the new gen now that I know I've got them sorted. To be fair, I think if I wasn't doing a channel like this and sharing stuff with you guys, I probably could have lived not getting them on day one. It wouldn't have ended my world. But I think because I'm so keen to share my experiences with you on this stuff, I really feel like I need them day one in order to bring you guys that stuff. Otherwise, I'm just way behind everybody else, aren't I? So, super stoked, people. Well, that's been good, that. A little midweek chinwag. Did I manage to cover everything? Let's have a look. I'm actually really late in recording this, so by the time you guys see it, it might be silly o'clock. Depends how much video footage. But I mean, to be fair, we've not really talked about much that I can give you video footage on, other than just rehashing some Bethesda, footage of Skyrim or Fallout or whatever. We'll see what my fancy takes me when I start editing the video. Yes, I think we've covered it all, people. Yeah. Hey, that was good, wasn't it? Didn't even look at my list other than to look at the game titles. What the shit? Flaggings up once again to you all. Well, I shall leave it there, people. If I carry on any longer, I shall just be talking nonsense, frankly. Rambling on with no purpose whatsoever. It has been an honour and a privilege serving for you in this podcast of mine today, and I shall see you all next time, folks. Take it easy. Bye.